The informal sector contributes about 80% of unemployment in the sub-Saharan African region. But the COVID-19 global pandemic is not only inflicting pain, but at the same time is actually disrupting this sector. And there are two aspects in which we need to look into. First, starting with ignore realities. For example, the closure of markets, especially marketplaces, has brought to light the important role played by the informal sector in providing fundamental goods and services that keep households and economies moving. This has been felt across the board in the entire continent, to the urban middle class, when the usual trip to the market to replenish groceries can no longer happen because the market is closed. The important role played by the local grocery vendor in open markets, locally known as mama bogas, in keeping households nourished, hits home fastest and harder. When a mama boga, for example, who trades by selling her produce to middle class buyers, can no longer make the much needed daily income or daily sales to sustain her family and replenish her business, she stares at a bleak future, a likelihood of losing her business for good. This impact cascades down the entire supply chain, impacting the transporter and all the way down to the farm, where diminished demand means that the likelihood that really impacts ready harvest could actually extend this loss to be felt by millions. The second aspect is that we cannot ignore fragilities. One key lesson to Africa has been the fact that during crunch times, countries by and large take care of their own. For example, while Africa needs an estimated $100 billion in emergency response, especially to buffer its economies at this hour of need, every country in the globe is focused mostly on taking care of their citizens. With multiple rounds of stimulus packages that have been put in place by these countries running into trillions of dollars, some extending up to 20% of their GDP. But they are all focused on buffering their own economies. And given the nature of this pandemic, where every country is dealing with this crisis and putting their citizens first, no country stands ready to bail out Africa's economies that may be at an even higher risk given their very low base. This is a lesson for Africa that the continent can only bet on what it has at hand. And therefore, it is quite very, very important to discuss how rebuilding better and stronger can be able to harness on the power of communal cooperatives in communities across Africa. Because we know that rebuilding better needs a strategic approach. Rebuilding better needs two key aspects, out of which Africa can be able to rebuild better. And the first is the continent must rebuild from the foundation, which is the informal sector. And the second is, in doing so, the region must leverage on financing structures familiar to the informal sector. And the first aspect to consider very strongly is that we must be able to transition and formalize cooperatives. We must be able to transition and formalize cooperatives, formalize local grassroots cooperatives from the traditional basis where they are known as vehicles of social financing into special purpose vehicles for investment and enterprise financing in the informal sector. And this informal sector includes individuals who can, through such cooperatives, be part of the enterprise approach. As an example, existing cooperatives holding members' deposits can, through their internal policies, prioritize financing members venturing into aspects that can actually be able to add value. We're talking of the entire agro value chain that is worth $1 trillion US. But if you can be able to help farmers to add value to what they produce and connect them to market, they will be able not only to create dividend, but will be solving a problem of climate change. We'll be putting more money in more pockets. We'll be creating jobs for the youth where they can be able to manufacture solar dryers. They can be able to add value to cassava, to turn it to cassava flour, to turn it to cassava cake. And all these things brings opportunities. The second is to finance this informal sector. Focus must be in areas that are catalytic. And this is clean energy, 365 days of sunshine, and the agro value chain. Post-harvest losses in the continent today cost the continent $48 billion because of inefficiencies in the entire agro value chain, because of lack of value addition, because of lack of storage, because of lack of preservation, especially to perishables. So if there are tools that are developed to be able to reverse this $48 billion, they will not just be putting more money in more pockets, but solving a problem and at the same time advancing climate action. And that's where solar dryers become very crucial. But for those solar dryers to be able to be brought to impact, to ensure that impact is brought to scale, they need also support, and cooperatives become the entry point. Cooperatives also provide an opportunity for traceability, where so many people in the informal sector don't have bank accounts, don't have systems that can be able to actually trace where they are. Through cooperatives, this can be made possible. It is therefore important to actually think in a novel way and leverage cooperatives not just to be the centers in which innovative actions to drive innovative financing can happen, but also structures that are grounded on the cultural aspects that many people are used to. Stay safe.